If you think money can buy anything, listen carefully. 3 days ago, billionaire tech CEO Marcus Blackwood offered a homeless woman $50,000 to pretend to be his girlfriend at his own engagement party. Not to make his fiancée jealous, to completely destroy the engagement. "I need someone real to help me blow up my fake life," he told her, rain dripping from his custom suit as they huddled in the doorway of his building. What he didn't expect, that this woman reading Dostoevsky in a cardboard shelter would see right through him in ways no one in his wealthy circle ever had. "So you want to pay me to help you sabotage your own engagement to a woman you don't love because you're too scared to do it yourself?" she asked, closing her worn book. That might be the most honest thing I've ever heard a rich person say. What happened next would shock Boston's elite, ruin a corporate merger worth billions, and change both their lives forever. But the real betrayal? It wasn't what anyone expected. The rain had been falling for hours when Talia Wright finally gave up on finding shelter at the overcrowded women's center. The social worker, a tired woman with kind eyes and a clipboard full of disappointments, had touched her arm gently. "If you leave now, there won't be a spot for you tomorrow either," she warned. "The system doesn't reward those who walk away." Talia adjusted the plastic bag containing everything she owned and looked the woman straight in the eye. "The system doesn't reward people like me anyway." She stepped out into the downpour, her worn sneakers immediately soaking through. 6 months on the streets had taught her which buildings had security guards who'd let you linger in the lobby and which had overhangs deep enough to keep you dry. Tonight, she headed for the financial district, where the buildings were tallest and the doorways deepest. The Blackwood Technologies building had become her favorite spot, not because the security was lax, it wasn't, but because there was a recessed doorway on the east side that nobody used after business hours. It stayed dry even in sideways rain, and the heating vent nearby kept it almost warm. Talia settled into her spot, pulled out her book, a water-stained copy of Crime and Punishment she'd rescued from a flooded little free library, and tried to lose herself in someone else's problems for a while. She didn't notice the man until his expensive shoes appeared at the edge of her vision. "You're in my doorway," a deep voice said. Talia didn't look up. She'd heard variations of this before. "I'll be gone by morning. It's just the rain." "That's Dostoevsky, isn't it?" The question was so unexpected that Talia finally raised her eyes. The man standing before her was tall, impeccably dressed in what had been a perfect suit before the rain got to it. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, and he looked lost. Not angry, not threatening, just completely out of place, like someone had dropped him into the wrong life. "Crime and Punishment," she confirmed, closing the book to protect the pages from the rain dripping off his coat. "Are you here to tell me to move along?" "No, He stopped, seeming to realize how strange this interaction was. "I own the building. You can stay." Talia snorted. "Right? And I'm the Queen of England." "Marcus Blackwood," he said, extending his hand as if they were meeting at a business function instead of a doorway in the rain. Talia stared at the hand, then back at his face. The name clicked. She'd seen it on the building, on the news. This was actually him, the tech wunderkind who'd built an empire before 30. "You're soaked," she said instead of taking his hand. He looked down at his ruined suit and laughed. A hollow sound with no humor in it. "Yeah, needed to clear my head. Didn't think about the weather." "Rich people problems must be nice," Talia said, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Instead of getting offended, he surprised her by sliding down the wall to sit beside her, heedless of what it would do to his expensive clothes. "There are still problems." They sat in silence for a moment, the rain creating a curtain around their small dry space. "I'm Talia," she finally offered. "Nice to meet you, Talia." "Why Crime and Punishment?" She shrugged. "It's about a man who thinks he's above the rules, then discovers he isn't. Seems relevant these days." Marcus turned to look at her fully, something shifting in his expression. "Can I ask you something completely inappropriate?" Talia tensed. Here it came, the proposition, the leering suggestion, the moment this unusual encounter turned predictably ugly. "Depends how inappropriate," she said cautiously. "How much would it cost to hire you for a night?" Talia was on her feet in an instant, book clutched to her chest like a shield. I'm not a prostitute. Marcus stood 2 hands raised. No. God, that came out wrong. I don't want. That's not what I meant. Then what exactly did you mean? Her heart hammered against her ribs. I need a date. For my engagement party. Talia blinked, certain she'd misheard. Your engagement party? Yes. You want to hire a homeless woman to be your date to your own engagement party? Yes. Talia stared at him. Are you having some kind of breakdown? Should I call someone? Marcus ran a hand through his wet hair, making it stand up in odd directions. The gesture made him look younger, less polished. Probably, but I'm serious. I'll pay you $50,000. The number hung between them, impossible and life-changing. Why? Talia finally managed. Because I'm about to get engaged to someone I don't love for a business merger. And I need to blow it up before Saturday. Talia studied him, looking for the lie, the trick, the trap. But all she saw was desperation and something that looked strangely like hope. That's the most honest thing I've ever heard a rich person say, she said finally. So you'll do it? I didn't say that. Talia crossed her arms. Why me? You could hire an actress, a model, someone who actually fits in your world. Because you're real, he said simply. And because you're reading Dostoevsky in a doorway during a rainstorm instead of begging. That tells me everything I need to know about you. Talia wasn't sure if she should be flattered or offended. What's her name? Your almost fiancée. Elise Harrington. Of Harrington Media? Marcus nodded, surprised. You know it. I wasn't born homeless, Talia said dryly. I read the news. Your companies are merging. Her father's company and mine. The engagement is part of the deal. That's medieval. That's business. He shrugged. Or it was. Until I realized I couldn't go through with it. Talia considered him. So instead of just telling her no like a normal person, you want to create a spectacle with a homeless woman as your arm candy. Marcus had the decency to look embarrassed. When you put it that way, it sounds terrible. It is terrible. And desperate. And honestly, a little pathetic. He laughed. A real laugh this time. All true. But I'm still offering $50,000. Talia's mind raced. That kind of money could change everything. An apartment. School. A fresh start. What exactly would this involve? She asked carefully. You come to my place tomorrow. My sister helps you get ready, clothes, hair, whatever you need. Saturday night, you're my date to the engagement party at the Harrington estate. We make an entrance, circulate, and when they announce the engagement, I publicly decline. That's it. And no one gets hurt? Only my pride and a business deal I never wanted anyway. Talia took a deep breath. I have conditions. Name them. Half the money up front in cash. I pick my own clothes, your sister can advise, but I decide. And I want it in writing that this is a business arrangement. Nothing more. Marcus nodded. Done. Anything else? Talia thought for a moment. Yes. I want to know why you can't just tell this woman you don't want to marry her. The real reason. Something flickered across his face, vulnerability maybe. Because I've spent my entire life doing what's expected of me. What's logical. What's best for the company. And for once, I want to do something so completely unexpected that there's no coming back from it. The raw honesty of it caught her off guard. Talia extended her hand. Okay, Mr. Blackwood. You've got yourself a date. The Blackwood penthouse occupied the top 2 floors of a building in Back Bay, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Charles River. Talia stood in the marble foyer, dripping rainwater onto floors that probably cost more than her entire former life. This way, Marcus said, leading her past rooms filled with sleek furniture and modern art. The guest suite is upstairs. Talia followed, clutching her plastic bag of belongings, acutely aware of how out of place she was. The guest suite turned out to be larger than the apartment she'd lost 6 months ago, with a bathroom bigger than some studio apartments. There are clothes in the closet that should fit until tomorrow when we can get you your own, Marcus said, hovering awkwardly in the doorway. Towels in the bathroom. The kitchen is fully stocked if you're hungry. Thank you, Talia said stiffly, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from doorway to luxury. Marcus seemed to sense her discomfort. I know this is strange. For what it's worth, I'm grateful. After he left, Talia stood frozen in the center of the room, afraid to touch anything. Then she caught sight of herself in a mirror, soaked, bedraggled, clutching her plastic bag like a life preserver, and started laughing. The situation was so absurd it circled back around to hilarious. The bathroom had a shower with more settings than her old car had gears. She stood under the hot water until her skin turned pink, washing away months of quick sink baths and shelter showers with strict time limits. When she emerged, wrapped in a towel softer than anything she'd felt in recent memory, she found clothes laid out on the bed, simple leggings and a sweater that looked small enough for her frame. Clean, warm, and dressed in clothes that didn't smell like the street, Talia finally allowed herself to explore. The closet contained women's clothes in various sizes, tags still attached. The refrigerator was stocked with food she hadn't been able to afford even before becoming homeless. The bookshelves held first editions behind glass. It was like stepping into another dimension, one where scarcity didn't exist. She was examining the books when a voice startled her. You must be the doorway girl. Talia turned to find a woman leaning against the doorframe. She had Marcus's dark hair and sharp features, but where his expression had been uncertain, hers was coolly appraising. And you must be the sister, Talia replied, straightening her spine. The woman smiled, pushing off the doorframe to enter the room. Naomi Blackwood, the one who's going to help transform you from street urchin to society girlfriend in less than 48 hours. Talia right. The one who's not actually going to be anyone's girlfriend. Naomi's smile widened. Oh, I like you already. Marcus said you had spine. Is he here? No, he's meeting with the lawyers, drawing up your contract. Very official for such a harebrained scheme. Naomi circled Talia, assessing. You're pretty. Good bone structure. This might actually work. Thanks for the ringing endorsement. Don't mistake my surprise for disapproval. I've been trying to get Marcus to call off this engagement for months. Naomi perched on the arm of a chair. Elise Harrington is exactly the kind of woman our parents would choose. Connected, appropriate, ambitious in all the right ways, and completely wrong for my brother. And I'm right because I'm wrong? Talia asked dryly. You're right because you made him laugh. I heard it all the way from the kitchen. Naomi's expression softened. Do you know how long it's been since I heard my brother laugh like that? Before Talia could respond, Marcus appeared in the doorway, holding a manila envelope. Your contract, he said, handing it to Talia. And this. He placed a stack of cash on the coffee table. 25,000, as agreed. Talia stared at the money. It was more cash than she'd ever seen in one place. I'll leave you two to get acquainted, Marcus said, backing toward the door. I have some calls to make. After he left, Talia turned to Naomi. Is he always this awkward? Only around people who make him nervous. I make him nervous? I'm the homeless charity case he's paying to create a scandal. Naomi's eyes narrowed. Is that what you think this is? Charity? Isn't it? My brother could hire a professional for this kind of stunt. An actress, a model, someone who knows how to navigate these waters. Naomi leaned forward. He chose you because you're the opposite of everything in his life right now. Real, unfiltered, unimpressed by his money or status. That doesn't make me special. It makes me useful. In our world, being useful is special. Naomi stood. Now let's talk strategy. Tomorrow we shop. Tonight, you learn everything there is to know about the Harringtons, Blackwood Technologies, and Boston High Society. Talia glanced at the contract, still unopened in her hands. I haven't signed yet. But you will, Naomi said confidently. Because beyond the money, you're curious. You want to see how this plays out. Talia couldn't deny it. After months of just trying to survive each day, the prospect of being part of something so completely outside her experience was oddly appealing. Fine, she said, reaching for a pen. Let's burn down a society engagement. The next morning, Talia woke disoriented in a bed so comfortable she'd slept deeper than she had in months. For a moment, she thought she'd dreamed the whole bizarre encounter. The rain, the doorway, the billionaire with the proposition. Then she saw the stack of cash on the nightstand where she'd placed it before falling asleep, and reality came rushing back. She'd agreed to be a human wrecking ball for a man she barely knew. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Breakfast is ready whenever you are," Marcus called through the door. "No rush, no rush." The luxury of those words nearly brought tears to her eyes. How long had it been since time wasn't a pressure point? Since she wasn't being hurried out of a shelter, away from a storefront, off a park bench? Talia found clothes laid out for her. Jeans that looked her size and a simple blue sweater. In the bathroom, she discovered new toiletries, still in their packaging. The small kindness of it, not having to ask, made her throat tight. Downstairs, she followed the smell of coffee to a kitchen where Marcus stood at the stove, his back to her. He wore faded jeans and a Harvard t-shirt, looking nothing like the rain-soaked CEO from the doorway. "You cook?" she asked, making him turn. "Only breakfast," he admitted. "And only because our housekeeper has Thursdays off." "Of course you have a housekeeper," Talia muttered, sliding onto a stool at the kitchen island. Marcus slid a plate of eggs and toast toward her. "I'm not going to apologize for being privileged. I wouldn't believe you if you did." Talia took a bite, trying not to show how good real food tasted after months of shelter meals and fast food. "This is good. Don't sound so surprised." He poured her coffee without asking if she wanted some. "Naomi will be here at 10 to take you shopping." "And what will you be doing?" "Meeting with my CFO to figure out what happens to my company when I blow up the merger on Saturday." Talia paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. "You're really going through with this? Having second thoughts?" "Just making sure you aren't." Marcus leaned against the counter, studying her. "Why did you agree to this? Besides the money?" Talia considered lying, then decided against it. "Because for 6 months, I've been invisible. People look through me, around me, past me, but never at me. And suddenly, someone not only sees me but thinks I'm worth $50,000. That's not why." "I know," she interrupted. "But it's still true. And maybe I wanted to feel visible again, even if it's just for one night." Something shifted in Marcus's expression, a softening around the eyes. "I see you, Talia, right?" The simple statement shouldn't have affected her so much. She looked down at her plate, suddenly unable to meet his gaze. "Tell me about her." "Elise." Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair, that same gesture from the doorway that made him seem more human. "She's exactly who I'm supposed to want. Smart, beautiful, connected. The perfect corporate wife. But I feel nothing when I'm with her. Less than nothing. I feel like I'm slowly disappearing." He shook his head. "That sounds dramatic." "It sounds honest," Talia corrected. "Why did you agree to the engagement in the first place?" "Because it made sense on paper. Our companies complement each other. The merger would take Blackwood Technologies International. My parents approved. Her father approved. Everyone kept saying what a perfect match it was until I started believing it. Until you didn't. Until I couldn't anymore." Marcus poured himself more coffee. "What about you? How did you end up in my doorway?" Talia tensed. This was the question she'd been dreading. The short version? Medical bills, job loss, eviction. The American dream in reverse. And the long version? Is longer than we have time for this morning. She pushed her empty plate away. "Thank you for breakfast." Marcus accepted the deflection with a nod. "I should get ready for my meeting. Naomi has a key. She'll let herself in." After he left, Talia wandered through the penthouse, taking in the details she'd been too overwhelmed to notice the night before. Despite the obvious wealth, the space felt impersonal, like a high-end hotel rather than a home. The only room with any character was the library, walls of books, worn leather chairs, and a desk covered in papers and tech prototypes. She was examining one of the devices when Naomi breezed in, dressed in what Talia recognized as designer casual. clothes that looked simple but probably cost more than a month's rent in her old apartment. Ready to transform? Naomi asked, eyeing Talia's borrowed outfit. As I'll ever be. Good answer. Honest, not overeager. Naomi nodded approvingly. You'll need that attitude tomorrow night. The car waiting downstairs was sleek and black with tinted windows. The driver nodded respectfully as Naomi slid in beside Talia. First stop, Newberry Street, Naomi instructed. Lena's expecting us at the salon. Talia's stomach nodded. I thought we were just shopping for clothes. This is a full transformation, honey. Hair, makeup, the works. Naomi studied her. When's the last time you had a professional haircut? Before, Talia said simply. Before everything fell apart. Before she became the woman in the doorway. Naomi seemed to understand. Well, Lena's the best. She does all the society wives and daughters. She'll know exactly what to do with you. Lena turned out to be a tiny woman with purple hair and an Italian accent who circled Talia like a shark, muttering to herself. Good bones. Nice eyes. The hair. Disaster. But we fix. She tilted Talia's chin up. You want to look like money or you want to look like you don't need money? Talia blinked, confused. Is there a difference? Huge difference, Naomi interjected. We want the second one. Old money confidence, not new money flash. Smart, Lena nodded. We keep it simple then. Clean lines, natural color enhanced, nothing too done. 3 hours later, Talia hardly recognized herself in the mirror. Her hair, previously a dull, overgrown mess, now fell in soft layers that framed her face. Her skin glowed from whatever treatments Lena had applied. She looked rested, healthy, like the woman she'd been before. Now clothes, Naomi declared, whisking her from the salon to a boutique so exclusive it didn't have a sign on the door. Inside, a woman greeted Naomi by name and led them to a private room where champagne waited. I told Vivian we need something for the Harrington event, Naomi explained. Something that says, I belong here, but also, I don't care if I belong here. That's contradictory, Talia pointed out. Welcome to high society. Naomi sipped her champagne. It's all contradictions wrapped in designer labels. The parade of dresses that followed was overwhelming. Talia tried on more clothes in one afternoon than she had in the past year, each outfit more expensive than the last. Finally, she emerged in a midnight blue gown with a simple silhouette that somehow made her look taller, more elegant. That's it, Naomi said immediately. Classic but not boring. Sexy but not trying too hard. Talia turned to examine herself in the mirror. The woman who looked back was a stranger. Poised, elegant, the kind of woman who might actually belong on the arm of someone like Marcus Blackwood. How much? She asked quietly. Don't worry about it, Naomi waved dismissively. I need to know. Naomi studied her for a moment, then nodded. 8,000. Talia nearly choked. For a dress I'll wear once? For a dress that will help you pull off the performance of a lifetime. Naomi stood, smoothing her own designer jeans. Consider it a business expense. By the time they returned to the penthouse, laden with bags from stores Talia had only seen from the outside, she was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical fatigue. The constant awareness of how out of place she was, the mental gymnastics of pretending to belong. It was draining in a way she hadn't anticipated. Marcus was in the kitchen when they arrived, laptop open on the island, tie loosened around his neck. How'd it go? He asked, looking up. Your sister is a force of nature, Talia said, dropping into a chair. Naomi grinned. She was a natural. Wait until you see her tomorrow night. I'm sure she'll be perfect, Marcus said, his eyes meeting Talia's with unexpected warmth. Speaking of perfect, Naomi set her bags down. We need to practice. Practice what? Talia asked. Being a couple. You can't just show up and stand next to each other like strangers. Marcus closed his laptop. Naomi's right. We need a backstory. For one thing. We met at a gallery opening, Naomi suggested. You were admiring the same obscure artist. Talia shook her head. Too cliché. And too easy to disprove if anyone checks. What do you suggest? Marcus asked. Talia thought for a moment. We met at the public library. I was researching Russian literature, and you were there for a board meeting. You saw what I was reading and struck up a conversation. I like it, Marcus nodded. Specific enough to be believable, vague enough that no one can verify details. And it explains why no one in your circle has met me, Talia added. I'm not from your world. That's actually perfect, Naomi said, looking impressed. Now, physical comfort. You need to look like you've touched each other before. Talia felt heat rise to her cheeks. What does that mean exactly? It means you can't flinch when he puts his hand on your back, Naomi explained. You need to look comfortable in each other's space. Marcus stood, moving toward Talia with a questioning look. May I? She nodded, suddenly nervous as he stepped into her space. He placed his hand lightly at the small of her back, a gesture that should have been impersonal but somehow wasn't. Like this, he said softly. When we walk into a room, when I introduce you. Talia forced herself to relax into the touch. Okay. And when we're seated, he continued, his hand moving to rest just above her knee. Sometimes I might do this. Is that all right? The warmth of his palm through her jeans was distracting. Yes. Good. Naomi approved. Now you, Talia. How would you naturally touch him? Talia hesitated, then reached up to straighten Marcus's tie. The gesture brought her close enough to catch his scent. Something expensive and subtle. Like this, maybe. Perfect, Naomi said. Small, intimate gestures. Now, let's practice the entrance and introductions. They spent the next hour rehearsing scenarios, greeting Elise and her parents, mingling with guests, handling potential awkward questions. By the time Naomi left for the evening, Talia felt like she'd crammed for an exam on a subject she'd never studied. You're a quick study, Marcus said as they sat in the kitchen afterward. Takeout containers spread between them. I used to be good at school, Talia admitted. Before everything happened. What did you study? English literature. I was working on my master's. Marcus looked genuinely interested. What happened? Talia pushed rice around her container. My mom got sick. Cancer. I was her only family, so I took time off to care for her. Medical bills piled up. I maxed out credit cards, took out loans. When she died, I was 3 credits shy of my degree and drowning in debt. I'm sorry, Marcus said quietly. Me too. Talia set down her fork. I tried to go back, get a better job, dig myself out, but it's like quicksand. Once you start sinking, every move just pulls you deeper. And no one helped? Talia laughed without humor. I asked. Believe me, I asked. Applied for assistance, called charities, begged former professors for extensions and second chances. The system isn't built for second chances. Yet you still read Dostoevsky. The observation caught her off guard. Books were the one thing I couldn't give up. Even when I had to sell my laptop, my phone, most of my clothes, I kept my books until I couldn't carry them anymore. Marcus was quiet for a moment. What will you do? After Saturday, with the money? Get an apartment. A cheap one, she added quickly. Find a job. Try to finish my degree eventually. You could do more than that with $50,000. I don't need more. I just need enough to start over. Marcus studied her with an expression she couldn't read. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone more broken, I guess. Bitter. Who says I'm not bitter? Talia challenged. Just because I don't wear it on my sleeve doesn't mean it's not there. Fair enough. Marcus leaned back in his chair. What are you bitter about? The question was so direct it caught her off guard. A system that lets people fall through the cracks. A society that looks away from suffering it could easily fix. The fact that you can casually spend $8,000 on a dress while people sleep in doorways. Including you. Including me, she agreed. But mostly, I'm bitter that I did everything right. Studied hard, worked multiple jobs, took care of my family, and still ended up with nothing. Not nothing, Marcus said quietly. You still have yourself, your mind, your dignity. Easy for you to say from a penthouse. I'm not claiming to understand your struggle, he clarified. I'm observing that despite everything, you've held onto something essential. That's rare. Talia didn't know how to respond to that. The conversation had veered into territory too personal, too real for what was supposed to be a business arrangement. I should get some rest, she said, standing abruptly. Big day tomorrow. Marcus nodded, not pushing. Of course. Good night, Talia. Good night, Marcus. In the guest suite, Talia sat on the edge of the bed, trying to sort through the confusing mix of emotions the day had stirred up. She'd agreed to this arrangement thinking it would be simple, play a part, take the money, move on. But nothing about Marcus Blackwood was turning out to be simple. The way he looked at her, really looked at her, made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in months. The way he listened when she spoke made her feel heard. And that was dangerous because in less than 48 hours this would all be over. She would take her money and her new start, and he would go back to his world of penthouses and mergers. Tomorrow night she would help him blow up his engagement. And then they would both move on with their separate lives, as if they'd never huddled together in a doorway during a rainstorm. That was the deal. That was the plan. So why did it suddenly feel so complicated? The morning of the engagement party dawned clear and crisp. A perfect October day that belied the storm they were about to create. Talia woke early, too anxious to sleep, and found herself wandering to the kitchen in search of coffee. Marcus was already there, dressed in running clothes, hair damp with sweat. Morning, he said, looking surprised to see her. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. Talia headed for the coffee pot. Pre-performance jitters, I guess. Having second thoughts? She poured herself a cup, considering the question. No, but I am wondering if you are. Marcus leaned against the counter. Why would you think that? Because today you're going to blow up a business deal worth millions, disappoint your family, and probably become the subject of Boston gossip for months. Talia took a sip of her coffee. That's a lot to trade for. What exactly? Freedom from a loveless marriage you could have avoided by just saying no. When you put it that way, it does sound ridiculous, he admitted. So why go through with it? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Because saying no wouldn't be enough. There would be negotiations, compromises, pressure to reconsider. This way, there's no coming back. No fixing it. It's a clean break. There's nothing clean about what we're doing, Talia pointed out. No, he agreed. But it's honest in its own way. More honest than I've been in a long time. Before Talia could respond, Naomi burst through the door, arms laden with garment bags and boxes. Good, you're both up, she said, dropping everything on the kitchen island. We have exactly 9 hours until the car arrives. And there's still so much to do. 9 hours seems like plenty of time, Talia said. Naomi looked at her like she'd suggested they fly to the party on unicorns. 9 hours is nothing. We have final fittings, hair, makeup, rehearsal, and you two still need to perfect your couple routine. We practiced yesterday, Marcus protested. And you were stiff as boards, Naomi countered. You need to look like you're actually attracted to each other, not like you're posing for a corporate headshot. Talia felt heat rise to her cheeks. What exactly did you have in mind? For starters, eye contact that lasts more than 2 seconds. Small touches that aren't choreographed. Inside jokes. Naomi ticked off items on her fingers. You know, the things actual couples do. We're not an actual couple, Marcus reminded her. No. But tonight you need to convince a room full of people that you are. Naomi fixed them both with a stern look. So get comfortable with each other. Fast. The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. A team of stylists arrived to transform the guest suite into a makeshift salon. Talia was plucked, polished, and painted until she barely recognized herself in the mirror. Don't look so terrified, the makeup artist advised as she applied a final touch of lipstick. You're gorgeous. I don't feel gorgeous, Talia admitted. I feel like an imposter. Honey, everyone at that party is an imposter in some way. the woman said wisely. You're just more honest about it. When the stylists finally left, Talia stood alone in the bedroom, staring at the midnight blue gown laid out on the bed. This was really happening. In a few hours, she would walk into one of Boston's most exclusive homes on the arm of one of its most eligible bachelors, and help him detonate his carefully constructed life. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Talia, Marcus called. Can I come in? Yes, she answered, tightening the belt of her robe self-consciously. He entered, already dressed in his tuxedo, and stopped short when he saw her. Wow, I'm not even dressed yet, she said, suddenly aware of her bare shoulders, the robe, the intimacy of the moment. I know, he cleared his throat. You look beautiful. That's the professional hair and makeup talking. No, it's not. He stepped further into the room. I have something for you. For tonight. He held out a small velvet box. Talia took it cautiously, opening it to reveal a pair of sapphire earrings that caught the light like captured stars. I can't accept these, she said immediately. They're not a gift, Marcus clarified. Just a loan, to complete the look. Talia hesitated, then nodded. Thank you. They're beautiful. They were my grandmother's, he said, watching as she carefully removed one from the box. She was the only person in my family who ever chose love over practicality. What happened? She married my grandfather against her parents' wishes. He was a teacher, not wealthy or connected. They disowned her. Marcus smiled slightly. They were married for 52 years. And now you're following in her footsteps? Choosing love over practicality. Not love, he corrected. Freedom. The freedom to find love on my own terms someday. The distinction felt important somehow. Talia put on the earrings, aware of Marcus watching her. How do they look? She asked. Perfect, he said softly. I'll let you finish getting ready. After he left, Talia sat on the edge of the bed, touching one of the earrings gently. They weren't just jewelry, they were a statement. A connection to someone who had defied expectations, chosen her own path. Just like Marcus was trying to do tonight. Just like she was trying to do with her second chance. The Harrington estate was even more imposing than Talia had imagined. A sprawling mansion set on manicured grounds that seemed to stretch for acres. As their car joined the line of luxury vehicles approaching the circular drive, her stomach twisted with nerves. Remember, Naomi said from the front seat. You belong here as much as anyone. Own it. Easy for you to say, Talia muttered. Marcus took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. You'll be amazing. Just be yourself. Myself is a homeless woman who until 2 days ago was sleeping in your doorway. No, he said firmly. Yourself is a brilliant, resilient woman who never gave up, even when the world gave up on her. The simple conviction in his voice steadied her. Talia squeezed his hand. Let's do this. When the car stopped at the entrance, Marcus exited first, then extended his hand to help her out. The moment her heels touched the ground, she felt eyes on them, curious, assessing, already wondering who she was. Breathe, Marcus whispered, his hand finding the small of her back in that now familiar gesture. They walked up the steps together, Talia focusing on not tripping in her borrowed heels. At the door, a butler checked their names against a list, then ushered them into a grand foyer where guests mingled, champagne glasses in hand. The room was a sea of wealth, designer gowns, bespoke suits, jewelry that could fund small nations. Talia felt a moment of panic, then remembered Naomi's advice. Own it. She straightened her spine, lifted her chin, and stepped further into the room on Marcus's arm. Marcus, there you are. A woman approached, tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in a white gown that probably cost more than a year's rent. Even without an introduction, Talia knew this was Elise Harrington. She had the polished look of someone who had never worried about money a day in her life. Elise, Marcus greeted her with a polite nod. You look lovely. Thank you. Elise's gaze shifted to Talia, her smile never wavering though her eyes turned cold. And who is this? Talia Wright, Marcus said, his hand pressing slightly firmer against Talia's back. Talia, this is Elise Harrington. Pleasure, Talia said, extending her hand. Elise took it briefly, her grip just this side of too firm. I don't believe Marcus mentioned he was bringing a guest. It was a recent development, Marcus said smoothly. How recent? Elise's smile remained fixed, but her tone sharpened. Before Marcus could answer, Talia stepped in. We met at the Boston Public Library. I was researching Russian literature, and Marcus was there for a board meeting. How intellectual, Elise said, in a tone that suggested this was not a compliment. Marcus never mentioned an interest in Russian literature before. There's a lot about me you don't know, Marcus said, his voice light but with an edge. Elise's smile tightened further. Clearly. Well, my father is looking for you. Something about the announcement. We'll find him together, Marcus said, his hand returning to Talia's back. As they moved away, Talia could feel Elise's gaze burning into her back. That went well, she murmured. Actually, it did, Marcus replied. She's rattled. She's suspicious. Good. That's the point. They made their way through the crowd, stopping occasionally as Marcus introduced her to people whose names blurred together. Talia caught fragments of whispered conversations as they passed. Never seen her before. Not from any of the families. What about the merger? Marcus leaned close to her ear. You're doing great. They're terrified of you. Why would they be terrified of me? Because you're an unknown variable in a world that runs on certainty. Before she could respond, they approached a small group that included an older couple who could only be Marcus's parents. The man had his eyes, the woman his sharp features. Mother, father, Marcus said. This is Talia Wright. Marcus's father extended his hand automatically. Pleasure. Marcus, we need to discuss the timing of tonight's announcement. Actually, Marcus said, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. There won't be an announcement tonight. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the surrounding conversations seemed to dim. This isn't the place for jokes, his mother said, her voice low and dangerous. It's not a joke, Marcus replied. I'm not marrying Elise. I'm not merging with Harrington Media. I'm keeping control of my company. His father's face darkened. You're throwing away everything for what? Some girl you just met. Talia felt herself stiffen, but Marcus's hand on her back steadied her. No, he said calmly. I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life. The confrontation might have escalated further if the orchestra hadn't chosen that moment to begin playing. Marcus's father leaned in close. This discussion isn't over, he hissed before turning away, his wife following with one last glacial stare at Talia. That went well, Talia murmured. Marcus surprised her by laughing. Actually, it did. They didn't cause a scene. The night is young. As if on cue, Elise appeared at Marcus's elbow. Dance with me, she commanded, more than asked. We need to talk. Marcus hesitated, looking at Talia. Go, she said. I'll get some air. As Marcus was led away, Talia made her way to the terrace, grateful for the momentary escape from the suffocating judgment of the ballroom. She leaned against the stone balustrade, breathing in the night air. He won't choose you, you know. Talia turned to find Elise standing in the doorway, her white dress ghostly in the moonlight. This isn't about choices, Talia said carefully. Elise laughed, the sound brittle as glass. Everything is about choices, and Marcus will choose what he always has: security, family, legacy. She moved closer, her perfume expensive and cloying. Whatever he's paying you, I'll double it. Just leave now, quietly. The assumption stung more than Talia expected. You think he's paying me to be here? Darling, I know he is. Men like Marcus don't just find women like you and bring them to events like this. So name your price. Something snapped inside Talia. A lifetime of being underestimated, overlooked, dismissed. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. Everything is about money, Elise insisted. That's the difference between us, Talia said quietly. I know there are things money can't buy. How philosophical, Elise sneered. Did you read that in one of your little books? Before Talia could respond, Marcus's voice cut through the tension. Everything okay out here? Elise's demeanor transformed instantly. Just getting to know your friend better. We should get back inside, Marcus said, his eyes on Talia. They're about to serve dinner. As they walked away, Talia whispered, She offered to pay me to leave. Marcus didn't look surprised. What did you tell her? That some things aren't for sale. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. Did you mean that? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to face. I don't know, Talia admitted. This whole thing is confusing. Marcus nodded slowly. For me too. The dinner that followed was a masterclass in passive aggression. Talia found herself seated between Marcus and his clearly disapproving mother, while Elise held court at the opposite end of the table, occasionally shooting venomous glances their way. So, Talia, Marcus's mother said during the second course, what exactly do you do? The table quieted, all ears tuning to Talia's response. Currently, I'm between opportunities, Talia said, the euphemism tasting false on her tongue. She took a breath and decided on honesty. Actually, until 2 days ago, I was homeless. The silence that followed was deafening. Someone's fork clattered against china. How refreshingly direct, Marcus's mother said after a moment, her tone suggesting it was anything but refreshing. Mother, Marcus warned. No, it's fine, Talia said. I believe in honesty. I was 3 credits away from my master's when my mother got sick. Cancer. The bills piled up, I lost my apartment, and eventually I lost her too. The system isn't designed for second chances. She looked around the table at the stunned faces. But I never lost myself. Even sleeping in shelters, I kept reading, kept thinking, kept believing things could change. Marcus's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. And now they have, she finished, meeting his eyes. The moment was broken by Elise's cold laugh. Well, isn't this touching? Marcus Blackwood, savior of strays. That's enough, Marcus said, his voice sharp. No, I don't think it is, Elise countered, rising from her seat. Everyone here deserves to know what's really happening. Marcus isn't just backing out of our engagement, he's having some kind of breakdown. Bringing a homeless woman to our announcement party? It's pathetic. The room erupted in murmurs. Marcus stood slowly, his expression calm but determined. You're right about one thing, Elise. Everyone does deserve the truth. He looked around the table. The truth is, I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life by marrying someone I don't love for a business deal I don't want. He turned to Talia, his eyes softening. And then I met someone who reminded me what it means to live authentically, to fight for what matters, to choose your own path even when it's harder. Elise's face contorted with rage. You can't be serious. Her? You're throwing away everything for her. No, Marcus said simply. I'm choosing myself, and maybe, for the first time, a chance at real happiness. The silence that followed Marcus's declaration was absolute. Talia could hear her own heartbeat, feel every eye in the room fixed on them. This was the moment they'd planned for, the public rejection, the scandal, the clean break. But something had shifted. The words he'd just spoken didn't sound rehearsed or calculated. They sounded real. Elise recovered first, her composure snapping back into place like a mask. This is ridiculous. Marcus, you're clearly not thinking clearly. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss, Marcus said, his voice steady. The engagement is off. The merger is off. Mr. Harrington, a silver-haired man with cold eyes who had been watching the scene unfold with growing fury, finally spoke. You understand what you're throwing away, Blackwood? This merger would have taken your little tech company global. My little tech company is doing just fine on its own, Marcus replied. And I'd rather build something authentic than sell my soul for market share. You'll regret this, Mr. Harrington warned, standing. When the markets open Monday, your stock will plummet. I'll make sure of it. Marcus didn't flinch. Probably, but it will recover. And so will I. Talia watched the exchange with a mixture of admiration and disbelief. This wasn't just about escaping a loveless marriage anymore. Marcus was risking everything. His company, his reputation, his family's approval, for the freedom to choose his own path. And somehow she'd become a catalyst for that choice. I think we should leave, she whispered, acutely aware of the spectacle they'd created. Marcus nodded, taking her hand as they stood. I apologize for disrupting the evening, he said to the table at large, but not for telling the truth. They walked out of the dining room together, heads high, ignoring the whispers that followed them. In the grand foyer, Marcus's father intercepted them, his face tight with barely controlled anger. You've embarrassed this family for the last time, he said in a low voice. Your mother and I have supported every one of your ventures, opened doors, made introductions. And this is how you repay us? By throwing away a perfect match for some. He glanced at Talia with undisguised contempt. Charity case. Talia felt Marcus tense beside her. Don't, he warned. Don't say something you can't take back. You've already done that for both of us, his father replied coldly. Don't bother coming to Sunday dinner until you've fixed this mess. He turned and walked away, leaving them standing alone in the foyer. I'm sorry, Talia said quietly. This is my fault. No, Marcus shook his head. This is all me. You just gave me the courage to finally do what I should have done months ago. Before she could respond, Naomi appeared, looking both concerned and oddly thrilled. Well, that was quite a show. The car's waiting. Let's get out of here before someone calls page 6. The ride back to the city was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Talia stared out the window at the passing mansions, each one lit up like a fortress against the night. She'd helped create exactly the scene Marcus had wanted. A public rejection, a clean break, no possibility of reconciliation. The plan had worked perfectly. So why did she feel so hollow? You okay? Marcus asked softly, his hand finding hers in the darkness of the back seat. Just processing, she replied. It's been an intense evening. That's an understatement, Naomi said from the front seat. You two just blew up Boston's social event of the season. The gossip mill is going to be working overtime. Let them talk, Marcus said, sounding tired but relieved. I'm done living for other people's approval. When they reached the penthouse, Naomi declined to come up. I think you two have some things to discuss, she said, giving Talia a meaningful look. Call me tomorrow. In the elevator, the silence between them grew heavier. Talia was acutely aware of Marcus beside her, of the borrowed dress, the borrowed jewelry, the borrowed life she'd stepped into for one night. I should pack my things, she said as they entered the penthouse. I can be out by morning. Marcus looked surprised. There's no rush. Take your time. I think it's better if I go quickly, Talia said, already moving toward the stairs. Clean break, right? Isn't that what tonight was all about? Talia, wait. Marcus caught her arm gently. What's wrong? She turned to face him, suddenly angry though she couldn't exactly say why. Nothing's wrong. The plan worked perfectly. You're free of Elise, free of the merger, free to do whatever you want with your life. Mission accomplished. Then why do you sound upset? I'm not upset, she insisted, though her voice betrayed her. I need to get back to reality. This, she gestured at her dress, the penthouse isn't real. It was a job, a transaction. Marcus studied her face. Is that all it was to you? The question hung between them, dangerous and loaded. Talia looked away. It doesn't matter what it was to me. Tomorrow I'll take my money and start over, and you'll go back to being a billionaire with a slightly damaged reputation. End of story. What if I don't want that to be the end of the story? Talia's heart skipped. What are you saying? I'm saying. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, that now familiar gesture that made him seem more human. I'm saying that somewhere between the doorway and tonight, this stopped being just a transaction for me. Marcus, let me finish, he said gently. I know how this looks. Rich guy rescues homeless woman, very pretty woman, very cliché. But that's not what happened here. You didn't need rescuing. You needed a chance. And in the process of giving you that chance, you gave me something I needed even more. What's that? Talia asked, barely breathing. The courage to be honest. To choose my own path. To stop living the life everyone expected of me and start figuring out what I actually want. He took a step closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. And what I want, Talia, right, is to see where this might go. For real. No transactions, no deals, no pretending. Talia's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. Men like Marcus Blackwood didn't fall for women they found in doorways. This was gratitude or rebellion, or some misplaced savior complex. You don't even know me, she said, taking a step back. Not really. I know enough, he countered. I know you're brilliant and resilient. I know you read Russian literature in the rain because books are the one thing you couldn't give up. I know you faced down a room full of judgmental socialites without flinching. And I know that when you look at me, you see Marcus, not the Blackwood fortune. This is crazy, Talia whispered, though something inside her was responding to his words, wanting desperately to believe them. Probably, he agreed with a small smile. But after tonight, I think I'm done with playing it safe. He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek so lightly she might have imagined it. I'm not asking for promises. I'm just asking for a chance. A real one. Talia closed her eyes, overwhelmed by the conflicting emotions coursing through her. Part of her wanted to run, to take the money and disappear before she could be hurt or disappointed. But another part, a part she'd almost forgotten existed, wanted to stay. To see if this impossible connection was real or just a fairy tale they'd created for one night. I need time, she finally said, opening her eyes to meet his gaze. This is all happening so fast. Marcus nodded, dropping his hand. Of course. Take all the time you need. The guest suite is yours for as long as you want it. Thank you, she said, stepping back further. I think I need to be alone right now. Good night, Talia. Good night, Marcus. In the guest suite, Talia carefully removed the sapphire earrings and placed them back in their velvet box. She unzipped the designer dress, hanging it with reverence in the closet. Piece by piece, she dismantled the illusion they'd created, until she was just Talia again. The woman from the doorway, now standing at a crossroads she'd never imagined possible. She sat on the edge of the bed, her mind replaying every moment of the evening. The looks, the touches, the words that had seemed like part of the performance but now felt weighted with something more. Had it been real? Or was she just another project for a man who could afford to indulge in romantic gestures? Sleep eluded her. Around 3 in the morning, she gave up trying and made her way downstairs to the kitchen, hoping a cup of tea might calm her racing thoughts. She was surprised to find Marcus already there, sitting at the island in sweatpants and a t-shirt, staring at his laptop. Can't sleep either? She asked, making him look up. Too much adrenaline, he admitted. Plus damage control. He gestured to the screen, where she could see he was composing an email. To who? My board of directors. Explaining why I just tanked a merger that would have increased our market value by 30%. Talia winced. Are you going to be okay? Professionally, I mean. Eventually, he said, closing the laptop. The company is solid. We'll weather this. She moved to the kettle, filling it with water. And personally, your family seemed pretty upset. They'll come around. Or they won't. He shrugged. Either way, I can't keep living my life to please them. Talia found mugs, tea bags, trying to occupy her hands while she gathered her thoughts. I've been thinking about what you said, about wanting to see where this might go. And, she turned to face him. I think you're confusing gratitude with attraction. Or maybe rebellion with genuine interest. Is that what you think this is? Marcus asked, his expression serious. It makes more sense than the alternative. Which is? That in the span of 3 days, you developed real feelings for a homeless woman you hired to help you escape an unwanted engagement. Marcus was quiet for a moment. When you put it that way, it does sound unlikely. Exactly. But life is full of unlikely moments, Talia. 3 days ago, I was resigned to a loveless marriage and a merger I didn't want. Then I walked out of my building and found you. This fierce, intelligent woman reading Dostoevsky in a doorway. And something changed. The kettle whistled, giving Talia an excuse to turn away, to hide the emotion his words stirred in her. She poured the water with hands that weren't quite steady. Even if what you're feeling is real, she said carefully, there's still the issue of everything else. You live in this world of wealth and privilege. I was sleeping in a cardboard box last week. Those are circumstances, not who we are, Marcus argued. And circumstances can change. Not that much, Talia countered, bringing the mugs to the island and sitting across from him. Your parents made it very clear what they think of me. Your business associates would probably feel the same. I'd always be the homeless charity case you picked up in a doorway. Only if we let that define us. Talia sipped her tea, buying time. I'm scared, she finally admitted. Not just of being hurt, but of losing myself again. I've spent 6 months fighting to hold on to who I am while the world tried to reduce me to my circumstances. I don't want to become someone's project or redemption story. Is that what you think you'd be to me? I don't know, she said honestly. That's the problem. I don't know what this is, what it could be, or if it's even real. Marcus reached across the island, his hand stopping just short of hers. Then let's find out. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people getting to know each other for real. How would that even work? However we want it to, he said simply. We make our own rules. Talia studied him in the soft kitchen light. This man who had upended his entire life in one evening, who was now offering to rewrite the rules for her. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Okay, she said finally. But I still need to leave tomorrow. Marcus looked surprised. Why? Because I need to stand on my own 2 feet. To know that whatever happens between us isn't happening because I'm dependent on you. She took a deep breath. I need to rebuild my life, Marcus. For me. Not for you or anyone else. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Where will you go? I've been thinking about that. With the money, I can get a small apartment, maybe in Somerville or Jamaica Plain. Something modest but safe. I can look for work, maybe at a bookstore or library, while I figure out how to finish my degree. And us? We take it slow, Talia said. Really slow. Coffee dates. Conversations that aren't about engagement parties or business mergers. Normal things. A smile spread across Marcus's face. Normal sounds perfect. And no more money, she added firmly. No gifts, no helping behind the scenes, no pulling strings. I need to do this myself. What about the $50,000? That was our deal. I'll take it, Talia said. But that's it. A clean slate after that. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, I can respect that. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, sipping their tea, the tension between them easing into something more comfortable. So, Marcus said finally, coffee next week? Talia smiled, the first genuine smile she'd felt in longer than she could remember. Coffee next week. The apartment Talia found was on the 3rd floor of a converted triple-decker in Jamaica Plain. It was small, just 1 bedroom with a tiny kitchen and living area. But it had good light, hardwood floors, and most importantly, it was hers. She moved in with almost nothing. A suitcase of clothes Naomi had insisted she keep, considerate payment for emotional damages. Her few remaining books, and the cash Marcus had given her, now safely deposited in a new bank account. The first week was strange. After months of shelters and doorways, followed by days in a luxury penthouse, the quiet normalcy of her own space was both comforting and disorienting. She bought second-hand furniture, a bed, a small table with 2 chairs, a comfortable reading chair for the corner by the window. She applied for jobs, made calls about finishing her degree, began the slow process of rebuilding. And through it all, there was Marcus. True to his word, he didn't interfere or try to help beyond what they'd agreed. Their first coffee date was awkward, both of them suddenly shy without the structure of their previous arrangement. But the second was better, and by the third, they'd found a rhythm, a way of being together that felt natural and unforced. They talked about books, about his company's latest projects, about her job interviews. They argued about films and debated philosophy. They learned each other's stories, not the headlines, but the details that made them who they were. 2 weeks after she moved in, Talia got a job at an independent bookstore in Cambridge. The pay wasn't great, but the employee discount was, and the owner was willing to work around her schedule when she eventually returned to school. The night she got the job, Marcus brought takeout to her apartment to celebrate. It was the first time he'd been there, and she watched nervously as he took in the modest space. "It's perfect," he said, and she could tell he meant it. "It feels like you." They ate at her small table, using mismatched plates she'd found at a thrift store, drinking wine from juice glasses because she hadn't bought proper stemware yet. "To new beginnings," Marcus toasted, raising his glass. "To new beginnings," Talia echoed. "And to doorways." He looked at her questioningly. "Doorways," she explained, "are thresholds between one space and another, between past and future, between strangers and whatever comes next." Marcus smiled, understanding. "To doorways, then, and whatever comes next." Their glasses clinked. A simple sound in a simple moment that somehow felt more significant than all the drama that had brought them together. Outside, rain began to fall, pattering against the windows of Talia's new home. But this time, she wasn't huddled in an alcove, seeking shelter. This time, she was exactly where she wanted to be. 3 months passed in a rhythm neither of them could have predicted. Talia settled into her job at the bookstore, gradually making it her own. She arranged displays featuring overlooked classics, started a book club that met in the small cafe next door, and became known among regular customers for her uncanny ability to recommend exactly the right book for any mood or occasion. Marcus weathered the fallout from the engagement disaster with surprising resilience. The stock dipped, as predicted, but not catastrophically. The board grumbled but ultimately backed him when he presented an alternative expansion plan that didn't involve surrendering control to Harrington Media. His parents maintained a chilly distance, though his mother had begun sending terse text messages that suggested a thaw might be possible eventually. Through it all, they built something neither had experienced before, a relationship based on choice rather than circumstance or convenience. They met for coffee between Talia's shifts, had dinner at neighborhood restaurants where no one recognized Marcus, spent Sunday afternoons walking through the public garden, debating everything from politics to poetry. They were taking it slow as promised. No grand gestures, no rushing ahead. Just two people learning each other, day by day. On a crisp December evening, Talia was closing the bookstore when she looked up to see Marcus through the window, waiting outside with 2 cups of coffee. The sight of him, this man who could be anywhere in the world but chose to stand in the cold waiting for her, still caught her off guard sometimes. "You're early," she said as she locked the door behind her. "Meeting finished sooner than expected." He handed her a cup. "Thought I'd surprise you. Consider me surprised." She took a sip, finding it exactly how she liked it. 1 sugar, splash of milk. Another small detail he'd learned and remembered. They walked toward the tea station, their breath fogging in the winter air. Christmas decorations lined the street, casting everything in a warm glow. "I have news," Talia said, unable to contain her excitement any longer. "I heard back from BU today. They're accepting all my previous credits. I can finish my degree with just 1 semester of classes." Marcus stopped walking, his face lighting up. "Talia, that's amazing. When do you start?" "January," she said, still hardly believing it herself. "I'll have to cut back hours at the store, but Diane said she'll work with my schedule." "I'm so proud of you," Marcus said, and the simple sincerity in his voice made her chest tight with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without," she started, then caught herself. "Actually, no. I did do this myself. But having you believe in me made it easier." Marcus smiled, understanding the distinction. "You did it yourself. I just had the good sense to recognize how capable you are." They continued walking, discussing her course schedule, the professors she'd be studying with. It felt wonderfully normal. Making plans, sharing news, walking side by side on a winter evening. At the tea station, they paused. This was usually where they parted, Marcus to his car service, Talia to the subway that would take her back to Jamaica Plain. "Come to dinner at my place tonight," Marcus said suddenly. "I want to celebrate your news properly." Talia hesitated. In their 3 months of dating, she had carefully maintained certain boundaries. She hadn't been back to his penthouse since moving out. It felt important somehow to keep that space separate from what they were building now. "We could go to that Thai place near my apartment," she suggested. Marcus studied her face. "You're still not comfortable coming to my place, are you?" "It's not that," Talia said, though they both knew it partly was. "It's just complicated. Because of the memories? Or because of what it represents? Both, maybe." She sighed, her breath a white cloud between them. "That place is where we pretended, where I was someone else for a few days. I like what we have now, something real built from scratch." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "What if I came to your place instead? I could bring dinner." The offer surprised her. In their careful dance of boundaries, they'd mostly met on neutral ground, restaurants, parks, museums. Her apartment had remained largely her own space, with Marcus visiting only occasionally and briefly. "Okay," she said, making a decision. "But I'm cooking." His eyebrows rose. "You cook? Don't sound so surprised." She laughed. "I've been learning. Nothing fancy, but I make a decent pasta." "Pasta sounds perfect." They parted with a kiss, another boundary that had gradually dissolved over the months. What had started as tentative goodnight pecks had evolved into something more lingering, more meaningful. Still, they hadn't rushed ahead, both aware of the unusual foundation they were building upon. At her apartment, Talia changed into jeans and a soft sweater, then began preparing the simple meal she'd planned. Pasta with a homemade sauce she'd been perfecting, a salad, garlic bread. Nothing elaborate but made with care. When Marcus knocked, she felt an unexpected flutter of nerves. This felt different somehow, more intimate than their public dates, more significant than his brief visits before. He stood at her door with a bottle of wine and a small wrapped package. "I know we said no gifts," he said before she could protest. "But this isn't from me. It's from Naomi." She insisted. Talia relaxed, taking the wine and the package. "How is your sister? I haven't seen her since." "Since the night everything changed?" Marcus supplied. "She's good. Busy with her foundation work. She asks about you all the time. Tell her she's welcome to join us for book club sometime. We're reading Austen next month. I'll pass that along, though fair warning, she'll probably take you up on it." The evening unfolded with an easy domesticity that surprised them both. They cooked together, Talia assigning Marcus to salad duty while she finished the sauce. They talked about their days, about the book she was reading, about his latest project. It was simple, ordinary, and somehow perfect. Over dinner, Marcus brought up something they'd been carefully avoiding. "The Harrington Holiday Gala is next weekend." Talia paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. "Oh, I've been invited, surprisingly. Or perhaps not surprisingly. Boston society loves nothing more than potential drama." He took a sip of wine. "I'm not going, of course." "Why not? After everything that happened? It would be awkward at best, disastrous at worst." Talia set down her fork. "Or it could be a chance to normalize things, to show everyone that life goes on." Marcus studied her. "You think I should go?" "I think hiding only gives the gossip more power." She hesitated, then added, "And I think you shouldn't go alone." His eyes widened slightly. "Are you offering to be my date? For real this time?" "If you want me to be," she said, suddenly uncertain. "Unless you'd rather not revisit that whole scene." "Talia, right?" Marcus said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Are you suggesting we make our official society debut as an actual couple? When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous." "No," he said quickly. "It sounds brave, and I'd be honored to have you as my date." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but something had changed in the atmosphere between them. A new threshold had been crossed. A decision to step fully into the public eye, not as part of an elaborate scheme, but as two people who had chosen each other against all odds. After dinner, they moved to her small couch, the bottle of wine nearly empty between them. Talia finally opened Naomi's gift, a first edition of Crime and Punishment, the same book she'd been reading the night she met Marcus. She remembered, Talia said softly, running her fingers over the embossed cover. We both did, Marcus replied. It's not every day you meet someone reading Dostoevsky in a doorway during a rainstorm. Talia looked up from the book to find him watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. What? I was just thinking about how unlikely all of this is, he said. If I hadn't walked out of that building at that exact moment, if it hadn't been raining, if you'd chosen a different doorway. They both fell silent, contemplating the series of chance events that had brought them together. Do you ever regret it? Talia asked suddenly. The way we met, the scandal, all of it. Marcus didn't hesitate. Not for a second. Do you? Sometimes I think I should, she admitted. It wasn't exactly a conventional beginning, but then I remember where I was, where I am now, and no, I don't regret it. He reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. I've been thinking about something you said that night at the Harrington estate, about knowing there are things money can't buy. I remember. You were right. All my life I've had access to anything money could purchase. But the things that matter most, authenticity, purpose, connection, those were always just out of reach. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Until you. The simple honesty of his words touched something deep inside her. For months they'd been careful, measured, taking small steps toward each other. But sitting here in her modest apartment, with the winter night pressing against the windows, Talia felt the last of her reservations beginning to dissolve. Marcus, she said softly, I think I'm falling in love with you. The words hung between them, honest and unadorned. No grand declarations, no dramatic gestures. Just the truth finally spoken aloud. Marcus's eyes never left hers. I think I fell in love with you that first night. In the rain. I just didn't know what to call it then. He leaned forward, closing the distance between them, and kissed her. Not the careful kisses they'd shared before, but something deeper, a promise and a beginning all at once. When they finally broke apart, Talia rested her forehead against his. Stay, she whispered. Not just tonight, but in my life. Stay. As long as you'll have me, he promised. The Harrington Holiday Gala was held at the same estate where, 3 months earlier, Marcus had publicly ended his engagement. As their car joined the line of luxury vehicles approaching the circular drive, Talia felt a flutter of déjà vu. Nervous? Marcus asked, squeezing her hand. A little, she admitted. Last time we were here, we were pretending. This time it's real. That makes it easier, don't you think? No act to maintain. Talia smoothed the skirt of her dress. A deep green velvet she'd found at a vintage shop, simple but elegant. No borrowed designer gown this time, no professional styling team. Just her as she was. You look beautiful, Marcus said, reading her thoughts. Completely yourself. The car stopped at the entrance. This time, when Marcus helped her out, the eyes that turned toward them held recognition along with curiosity. Everyone knew who they were now. The tech billionaire who'd rejected a society marriage and the woman who had been by his side that night. Ready? Marcus asked, offering his arm. Talia took a deep breath and nodded. Ready. They walked up the steps together, Talia focusing on the warmth of Marcus beside her rather than the whispers that followed them. At the door, the same butler checked their names, his expression betraying no recognition or judgment. The grand ballroom was transformed for the holidays. Evergreen garlands, twinkling lights, ice sculptures shaped like swans. It was as ostentatious as Talia remembered, but this time she viewed it with different eyes. Not as an outsider looking in, but as someone who understood that all this glitter was just one version of reality, no more or less valid than the life she'd built for herself. Marcus, you came. They turned to find Elise Harrington approaching, resplendent in a red gown that probably cost more than Talia's entire apartment. But unlike their last encounter, Elise's smile seemed genuine, if cautious. "Elise," Marcus greeted her with a polite nod. "Thank you for the invitation. You remember Talia?" "Of course," Elise said, her gaze assessing but not unkind. "I'm glad you both could make it." The lack of hostility caught Talia off guard. "Your home looks beautiful," she offered. "The decorations are lovely." "Thank you," Elise said, then lowered her voice slightly. "I should tell you both. I'm engaged. For real this time. To someone I actually love." Marcus looked genuinely pleased. "Congratulations. Anyone we know?" "James Thornton. From the Symphony Board." Elise's expression softened. "Turns out when the pressure was off to make a business match, I found someone who makes me happy." "I'm glad," Marcus said, and Talia could tell he meant it. As Elise moved away to greet other guests, Talia turned to Marcus with raised eyebrows. "That was unexpected." "Maybe not," he mused. "Sometimes one person breaking the rules makes it easier for others to follow." They made their way through the crowd, stopping to chat with acquaintances, accepting congratulations on Marcus's company's recent success, fielding the occasional direct question about their relationship with good humor and honesty. "They're not as judgmental as I expected," Talia observed as they found a quiet corner with champagne flutes in hand. "Boston society adapts quickly when it needs to," Marcus explained. "And in the end, success is the ultimate social currency. The company's doing well, so suddenly our unconventional beginning is charming rather than scandalous." "Cynical but probably accurate," Talia laughed. "Marcus." They turned to find Marcus's parents approaching. His father stiff but not openly hostile, his mother's expression carefully neutral. "Mother, father," Marcus greeted them. "You remember Talia? Ms. Wright." His father acknowledged with a slight nod. "I understand congratulations are in order. Marcus tells us you'll be completing your degree this spring." The fact that Marcus had been talking about her to his parents, and that his father had remembered this detail, surprised Talia. "Yes, that's right. 1 semester to go." "Literature, isn't it?" his mother asked. "Any plans after graduation?" "I'm exploring a few options," Talia said carefully. "I've been enjoying my work at the bookstore, but I'm also considering graduate programs. Harvard has an excellent comparative literature department," his mother offered, the suggestion hanging in the air like an olive branch, small but significant. "I'll keep that in mind," Talia said, understanding the gesture for what it was. The conversation continued, stilted but civil. When his parents eventually moved on to greet other guests, Marcus released a breath he seemed to have been holding. "That went better than expected," he said. "Baby steps," Talia agreed. "Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither are in-law relationships." Marcus laughed, then grew serious. "Thank you for coming tonight, for facing all this with me." "Where else would I be?" she asked simply. As the orchestra began to play, Marcus extended his hand. "Dance with me." Talia took his hand, letting him lead her to the dance floor. As they moved together among Boston's elite, she thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a rain-soaked doorway to this glittering ballroom, from a desperate proposition to something real and lasting. "What are you thinking?" Marcus asked, his hand warm against her back. "I'm thinking about doorways," she said, "about thresholds and new beginnings, and about how sometimes the most unlikely paths lead exactly where you're meant to be." Marcus pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers for a moment. "I love you, Talia Wright." "I love you too," she whispered back. "All my life, and we just met." Around them, the party continued, the music, the laughter, the social chess game that had once seemed so important. But in the center of the dance floor, Talia and Marcus moved to their own rhythm. Two people who had found each other against all odds and chosen to build something real from the most unlikely beginning. Outside, snow began to fall, covering Boston in a blanket of white. But this time, neither of them needed to worry about finding shelter. They had already found it, in each other.